We're live, and she's back in the screen.
Did I leave for a moment?
You did. You went away. Hey, everybody. This is Grayson, and this is who are you tonight?
What?
Are you a extra?
Who am I tonight?
Yeah.
Don't be telling on us now.
We're here, guys, and we wanted to welcome you to another edition of. This is our group energy, and as you can see right there, it's it attracts. So that's kind of what this new podcast is going to be. So it have its own identity. So I won't play the theme music tonight for mine.
Really?
Yeah.
You're changing it up.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess we'll have to come up with. I should have put our old one in here.
Oh.
I should have added that one.
We did have an old one.
Yeah. And
just like love, it's evolving.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put that in there. But I want to welcome you tonight. And last week we talked about leading with love, right?
Correct.
Lead with love last week.
Lead with love.
Lead with love.
Mm-hmm.
And so tonight we want to talk to you guys about living with love.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching us on Facebook, if you're watching us right now on Fly Girl Endeavors, we just want to welcome you guys. We want you to comment, feel good about just giving your 2 cents, and we will make sure that we respond appropriately in the right amount of time with the right amount of love. So, with that being said, what is living with love? Well, what is love?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, I think that's where we got to start.
And I wanted to say that living with love doesn't necessarily mean two people together.
Okay.
Living with love is everywhere and anywhere you go. Living with love is in your home, being that of your heart. So living with love is wherever you are. If you really are truly, as we go back to last week, leading with love. Mm-hmm. So I think that could be a misconception. Like, coming on and saying living with love, people might be saying, well, yeah, that's two people together. But it's even grander or greater than that. So I think we should delve into the fact of love is with you wherever you go. It's not necessarily being with the other person.
Well, I want to delve into the fact that this tea right here is like so amazing. She makes, I'm telling you, whatever she makes seems to be like better than I could ever make it. So I wanted to say that. So I'm in love with the tea.
Well, thank you, but that's just your way of copying out from making it for yourself. Let's be real.
That's living with love.
No, I thank you and appreciate it, but I didn't do much.
No, it tastes different when you do it. It tastes awesome.
That's because I stirred it a little extra.
A little
heavy extra in there. There you go. Okay, back on track.
So this love thing, right? Mm-hmm. I think that people in today's world have really mishandled this definition. They mishandled this word. I think I'm very flippant with it, and we throw it out anywhere. And so because we've done that, I don't think people really know how to live with love. You talked about it being an internal thing, right? And I think that so many people have a personal disdain for who they are. They have a dislike for who they are. I don't think many people love themselves. I think they want to say that because it's very hard for somebody to admit that they don't love themselves, right? And the only people that seem to admit that are people maybe that have been through some major trauma that is really hard in their hearts when it comes down to it. But I think that living with love has got to be a practice.
Absolutely.
It's not just a statement. It's not just a.
I think the word "I love you" is thrown out there far more than it's really known.
Absolutely.
Right? When things change, the "I love you" kind of changes along with it. Mm-hmm. I started off by saying how, love is always evolving. And with that evolving comes change. Mm-hmm. And love is able to endure the change.
Well, hold on. What's love is evolving mean? Well, what does that really mean?
Well, okay, go ahead.
Because I've heard it, and we heard it last night. We heard an actor talking about his life, and he was talking about he was evolving, and he was saying how he says the woman he married 22 years ago wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And he was the same guy he was 22 years ago. But what does evolving really mean?
I think it's when you start to really understand your own self.
Okay.
And so you evolve as a person, therefore your love is evolving. And you mentioned earlier how it starts with that self love.
Right.
It's interesting that if you ask many people, who do you love? Not many of them will respond with myself,
Mhm.
because love is thought of as giving it away. Love is an act, love is something to be shared. So we think of it as to be given, to be received, but to be given. It's
Right.
shared. So often you don't think of yourself by saying, well, out of the three people, I love myself. I
Mhm.
love my parents. I love my children, whoever it might be. I love my
Right.
partner. But I think that's really beginning. So as we evolve as people in the knowing, and I can speak on my behalf,
Mhm.
I know that from my teenage to my young adulthood to now my maturity. I knew I was going to get that.
You're maturing, mother.
Thank you very much. So with that is the evolving of love is really knowing yourself and being able to give of that.
And so here's where I have a challenge.
Okay.
Right. Evolving would institute that it's moving from the original. Right. So when we look at evolution, right, evolution as a scientific premise says that something started here and is growing into this, right? So if we use the analogy of apes to humans, right? We were originally apes. And
Really?
then
You're going there?
That, but I'm saying,
You were going there.
Well,
You could have came up with some.
well, I'm trying to give this illusion of evolution.
Cars in the 50 to the cars in the
Okay, that's fine.
okay.
But I think people understand the Darwinian side. But here's my thing, and here's why I think we use words today that seem to make sense, but they miss the true meaning. Because has God's love ever changed?
I think it was what the exemplified love was right to begin with.
Right, what I'm saying.
So did it have to change? No.
So why would it have to evolve? See, I think we're doing.
So it didn't change, but we as humans, there is a change.
But why? Because God's love should be the standard, right?
It all depends where we started with love.
Yeah.
So therefore it shall change. Our foundations are all different.
Right, but love hasn't changed. I think.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
I'm saying that the
original. So I'm talking about love, not just the word love, but our love.
Right.
I'm talking about our love evolving, like the love of our own.
Right, but I think that evolving deals with conditions. Because the conditions change, I have to change with the conditions. I really believe that where people miss it and where we miss it in love is that because we don't use the original plan of love, we're trying to create new things in love. Think about it. God's love has never changed. And for me, God's love has never changed, right? So if it's unconditional, then to me, that should be the model. I believe that because that model has been tainted, I believe because that model is no longer the standard, that we use words like evolve. And I think that love tends to have a watered down meaning than what it really originally used to be. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now, I get what I get. I don't think there's a wrong. I'm not saying that.
And for you, it may not have evolved.
I don't think. But here's the thing. I think what you're saying is it has, but I don't believe it should have, because I believe that love, if we do it right, it should be. God is consistent. The Bible says he changes not. And if his love is that way, and we're supposed to be modeling his love, then our love shouldn't change. Our love should be, but we don't practice that. We practice evolving love. I guess I'll use that word. And love has gone from being unconditional and loving people in that way to, as you said, where we came in on the love train. What we have been taught love is, or what our personal experience.
How it was modeled to us.
Right, exactly.
How it was modeled to us, what we've seen, and what we've gone through.
Right.
Right. I mean, whatever we've gone through will create different little cracks and crevices to be able to have to, set up that boundary and then break the boundary down if we can. And that's what I mean by it. It's all that. It's whatever the foundation in which you started.
Right. But
I mean, we talked earlier about together as we're getting to know each other in our own love. Just our upbringing in our families.
Absolutely.
And how that created the start of of what the modeling of love was.
But I think for us, as we're talking to people about it,
Mm-hmm.
we have a heart for getting people back to the original plan.
Correct.
And I think that it's going to be important for us
Mm-hmm.
to really stand on the fact that that is the standard. You know what I mean? I think the psychology and everything else has made us look at love in a completely different way. You know, even if you look at love in the progressive way that they're looking at it today, where love encompasses everything and everybody, and there really is no rule except for love, right? So you love everyone, all love is good, and that's not true.
No.
But I think that's the mantra that's there, and I want to make sure that we differentiate for people what it is when it comes down to what love is. I think redefining it the original way is what people need. But as you said, the evolution, we're evolving, and I think our evolution was because we got away from the original blueprint, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it was never
True.
so. If we were never introduced to the original blueprint in the right way, then we're going to get an evolved um, image of love, right? And if that
We're going to create our own.
correct, and if that image is tainted, or if it's off center, or if it's off kilter, then we really have. So now, when we see real love, it doesn't look real.
Right.
When we see real love, we question it. So even with God, we like, well, how can God love us when we've done the stuff we've done, right? So we question real love now.
Right.
So we accept the other forms of love because they have evolved into something that we can be palatable, right? But I think for people, for what we want to do for people and what we want people to be and see is, I want everybody to experience the love you give me and the love that I have with you. I want everybody to experience that. And some people need to have it redefined in order to understand that. Because what we talk about sometimes, people are like, that can't be real. What you all do, you can't love anybody like that. And I'm like, yeah, I told you all the time. I said, for me, looking back over how my life was introduced to what the premise of love was and what it encountered and what it was evolved in, I had a misconception of love in a crazy way. But I had to make sure that what it came down to was learning something completely different.
Correct.
And that's what I believe we want to do with energy.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what attracts. It's the love that's inside of you that attracts.
Mm-hmm. Very true, very true. And I had put down, I can't quite remember the words, maybe help me with it, but there was the discussion in regards to, in order to know love, you have to go through what love isn't.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's everything in our life, is that in order to really understand something, you have to go through the opposite almost to be able to grasp it and understand it. So even all that we've gone through, which was love as we known it at that time,
absolutely,
has really brought us to know what we wish not to have.
Right. And it's hard to admit having love that wasn't the right love for you.
Well, it's what we knew at the time.
Right.
So I mean, that was love. Truly. I mean, everybody who's out here, there isn't anybody who's going to say, oh, no, I don't love.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Everyone loves, but they love to the capacity that they understand love to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that capacity truly is how much you love your own self.
Right.
Because without that, you can't give of yourself. So you really have to have that fullness of that understanding. And that in itself is, how does one love themselves? And I think it's being truthful to your own being. And really, I think when you truly love your full self, you can give of that, knowing that there isn't any insecurities.
Right.
Because there's no reason to be. There is no voids to fill because there is no reason. There are no comparisons of other people, because you're already in the fullness of the unconditional love for yourself.
Yeah, that's fantasy though. That doesn't exist. And I think that's where people are. I think this is the battle that they have.
Well, can you imagine if people could walk on earth without all of that baggage?
Absolutely.
I mean, the beauty of that, and truthfully knowing. I mean, I know in the hearts of the hearts that that's what people want. Nobody wants to have that load. That just isn't lightened.
No,
But
what's funny is that a lot of people accept that lightened load as love, or that heavy load as love.
Well,
Right?
they know how to navigate through it, and they can, and it's what they know love to be. So
So what do you
there we
guys know
go.
love to be? If you're watching right now, what do you know love to be? And I think love becomes fatalistic at times. It becomes this martyred lifestyle that I'm not loved unless I'm going through, and you hear people talk about suffering and all these things and really talking about pain. And it's almost like well, you worked out, you were a fitness competitor. You remember the old adage, no pain, no gain, right? And that was, and pain makes you change, but what people tend to do is suffer. And suffering is optional. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
Right, right.
But for some reason, we feel like love and pain have to go together. And they don't. But I think you feel like unless you've been hurt, you never experienced it. You feel like unless I've actually been hurt, then I won't know love. And I believe that people feel like I have to again learn what I don't to find out what I do. And what I want to encourage you to do is you don't have to go down these roads if other people have gone down there. You don't necessarily have to experience things that other people have gone through. So living with love, I think again, in a world today where this love mantra is tossed around and it's all accepted, I think we believe in this kumbaya, I love everybody. And love isn't always good. A 30-year-old man have an affinity for a 9-year-old girl, that's not love.
Yes.
And but the reality is this is what they expect us to have in this world of acceptance. It is. And the hard truth is having these conversations. Because at the end of the day, this is what all love isn't good love. The Bible even says that to not love the world and the things of it. And the things so all love isn't good, yet we focus on all love being good. And we literally look at, oh, that's why I believe the conditional love that we accept. All that love isn't good. Not all of that is healthy. Not all of it turns you into or is beneficial for your growth, right? But I think we have labeled it and lumped everything into this love space. And because we've done that, now all love is good, and all love really isn't good.
True.
Your love's good though.
So
I say that. Her love is real good.
appreciate you. I was asking the question that you asked earlier. I took it upon myself because I don't know. I'm just fascinated with love now. I really, truly am. And when you get to a certain space, you just want more of it, and you want to give more of it. And I think that space became first for me, and then for you, and then for all. And it's interesting because as you're weaning through it, some people just aren't able to see you in that light, or
Right.
see you in that way.
Right.
So it was very interesting. But I took it upon myself to go out there as I was working and just ask random people, what is love?
What'd you find out?
And it was so interesting. First of all, it was dumbfounded by a lot of people because you think it would be a simple question.
Right.
What is love? And it turned out to be a really difficult question. And I just asked, random people if they could answer in one statement, what is love?
What did he say? What did he say?
So, okay, I'm getting to it. I have to read some of the notes because I don't want to mess up.
Right.
Now, I asked those who were younger, so anywhere between the ages of 25 and 32, and the majority of them saw it as a sacrifice.
All right, explain that.
So the sacrifice being that, and this was exact words by a few of the females, which was really interesting, is that the men had to sacrifice their money in order to have the woman.
Bam.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah, heard that a few times. And then the woman had to sacrifice her body to give to the man. Meaning that of childbearing is what really was being considered. But that it was, and they did go into some of the biblical speakings of, how God sacrificed his son Jesus and all of this. So there was that implication in regards to it. But there was definitely, it wasn't this connection. There wasn't the depth of knowing. It was more of that. Asking the men. Now the men were like dumbfounded in some sense. And if you read the book, men want respect, women want love. The Love and Respect book. I was really astonished when I asked the men, and they were just like, never really thought about it Uh, Everything. Can you expand on that? Well, like the love languages, like knowing each other's love languages, and or it was like the act of giving or the act of protecting and providing. So there was all that concreteness of it that they were able to relate to. One of the gentlemen, though, really was wonderful, and he stated about the vulnerability. The He was a married man, and being able to be vulnerable and be true to who he was through all of his trials, along with his wife, and knowing that she always had him. I thought that was like a real good statement in regards to it. Women typically went to it being that of patience, understanding. Most of them specified it being a feeling or an emotion. And it was the act of giving. So there was a lot of that. I really enjoyed this comment about love is freedom.
Okay.
Because I think that really encompasses a lot of it.
Okay.
When you think of love as freedom, it is when you can truly be who you are.
Right.
That's the sense of freedom. And be honored for who you are. There's no change needed. There's a sense of freedom with that. So,
do you think people really know who they are? And what I mean by that is,
I think if they want to, they can, but it takes some soul searching. It takes some silence. It takes time to be on your own, with no distractions. I think you can know, but I don't think people give themselves time to know.
I think people don't feel like they have time. I think they feel like that they've entered into a world, especially if they got kids or jobs and all those things that are so seemingly more important or prioritized. They don't have time to get to know themselves. And I think that's the sad part about where we are, because the fact of the matter is, if you don't know yourself, how can you truly give love the way it's supposed to be given? I believe that you limit yourself, and unfortunately, conditional love is limiting. And most people have accepted. I've heard so many people say that I'm okay with this love, right? And you see it in different places. You see it in relationships where there's abuse or mishandling. They just accept it, right? Because for some reason that's their love, or that's what they experience as their love, and they've never seen anything else. So and this is why I believe it's so hard for people to have relationships,
because they've never stepped out of that love,
right? And I think there's so many people struggle today with God's love, because what they've done is they tried to reduce God to the same man's conditions, and they made God almost the same conditional love that man has. So they struggle with God still loving them. They struggle with God even wanting them around because of some of the things they've done, choices they made, decisions they've had, things that have happened, things that they stood up for, didn't stand up for. Everything goes. That's not who God is. And I think that when we take the characteristics of man and try to put them on God, we really misunderstand who He is. What we're supposed to do is take His whole covenant, who He is, and put that on man. But it's so much a man has to be responsible for that. They don't want to be. And I think that's why so many people miss out on having the most amazing relationships. I think they find common ground, but I don't think they find covenant. And covenant is, I think here's what people do. People live with contracts and agreements. That's what most relationships are, contracts and agreements. But God is a covenant God. And the way He ordained man and woman to be together was a covenant. And covenant is based on how He said it. We have chosen.
Explain that a little bit more.
So covenant can't be broken. Covenant is a standard that God only creates covenants. We have agreements. We have relationships. We have contracts. All of those are negotiated based on conditions. And all those can be broken at some point. God's covenant, what we're truly supposed to do is have a relationship with somebody that can't be broken.
Correct.
That is forever, that is all the way in. And unfortunately, we live in a society that allows for contractual relationships. And now today they're transactional relationships, because they've gone a step lower. So it was covenant to begin with, then it was contract and agreement, Now it's transactional. And I think that this is why love is so
It's lost.
absolutely.
It's lost. I mean, when you reach to a certain level of knowing love,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually walk in this world and see it lost.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
it's an incredible vision, and then yet you just feel so honored to be able to know this love. And I think that's probably part of this whole mission for us, is to really get people to get to know love
Mm-hmm.
in that way. And it takes time, because you have to strip yourself. You really have to strip yourself down. So when I was thinking for my own self, outside of, love being patient, love is kind, and all of that, knowing, I really went, what is love for me? Different than anyone had shared. And I, knowingly, that love is a choice. I'm on my own. Wait, I can talk about him now.
Oh my God.
Oh my
You can
goodness.
tell them why.
Really?
Yeah, you can tell them why.
No, I'm not going to. You can
can.
share after.
Okay.
So it's me and, well, you used to have somebody with you. What was that person's name? It was just me. So let me explain what I was going through. So when I was thinking about love, and love being that of a choice, and I wanted to identify, what does that really mean? And for me, love is really to let go. That's what it was for me. And what I mean by that is letting go of the control. I'll let you think about that for a minute. Love is letting go of the control. Grayson was speaking in regards to the covenant, right? That nothing can break it. Well, that's the way it's supposed to be. But if you start to put conditions and control and your belief systems into effect, it can be broken. When you truly let go of the control of love, and you begin to just allow it to be, allow it to receive it, allow it to give it, with nothing but the unconditional being of love, it can't be broken. It truly can't be broken. That's what I mean by to let go and lose the control. See, we do it to our own selves. Truthfully, we do it to our own selves. I am definitely one that knows that I had expectations of what it was that was going to be of my desire. I never knew it to be like this. I let go of all the control of myself, with all the expectations of the transactions of what I felt was needed, desired. And only because once you let go of that control, you truly receive what you didn't even know you desired. That's the aha moment of love, is when you don't even know what you desire because you've never had it before. It's kind of like taking a trip somewhere and having all these expectations, and you just arrive and you're like, wow, this is nothing like I ever thought it was going to be, good or bad. It's really just being able to receive it as you're moving along with it. Now, Grace and I watch a lot of different YouTube videos, and one of his favorite, Dr. Miles, and we listen to him quite often and get a lot in regards to it. And he did this analogy of love, and he described it as cake. And he said that when you bake a cake and it comes out and you're eating the cake and you're like, ooh, it's too salty, it's dry, and you don't just throw the cake away. You don't just decide, well, that's it, not going to do this again. No, you take a look back in the cookbook. See, the picture of the cake looked fabulous. You see where I'm going with this about love? The picture looked amazing. It was good enough to eat. The ingredients of the cake, that's something you have to really learn. You have to go through it. So when that cake didn't turn out so well, You go back to the ingredients of it, and you read along the ingredients, and you go, oh, that's what was needed. Oh, I see. And then you start to navigate and create once again that cake. You just don't throw out the cake. Love is like that. All of us come with ingredients. Those ingredients are things that we're being built upon in our own life. He's back. I did not say anything. And so think about that. When you think about love, think about that cake and that really good looking picture. But in order to really taste the deliciousness of that cake, you have to know the ingredients of it. He's back.
I am.
I didn't share anything. He just,
Well,
you gotta go.
Yes, and it's not because I have to go. It's because I have to go. I'm doing my male health regimen. So tomorrow I have to go have a colonoscopy.
Colonoscopy.
And so part of the colonoscopy is literally me.
I can't believe you're even sharing this. I mean, I did good.
This is living with love. This is living. I heard you. You were awesome.
Oh.
I heard you.
Thank
you. It was living with love. So I want you all to realize that transparency is what it is. And, it's all good.
So I was talking about the ingredients, right, and I think the ingredients is knowing your own ingredients, yep, right? Mm-hmm. So that picture looks good, right? Knowing your own, and I think too knowing of each other's ingredients, right, and not trying to change it. Those ingredients of you, right, it makes up you, and I'm not going to change the recipe. I'm going to enjoy the recipe.
But I think
using the analogy of cake.
But I think the biggest thing for most people is the fact that they're focused on the picture.
That's exactly that. I put the emphasis on that. You take a look at that picture and you're like, that's gonna be a good cake.
And you want the picture, and I think that's all they focus on. They miss what it takes to make the cake. They miss every part that goes along with it. Mm-hmm. And when it doesn't taste the same, or it doesn't taste like you wanted it to, now you question how you made it. And no, you have to go back to the recipe. Mm-hmm. Did you follow the recipe? Mm-hmm. There's a recipe for love.
Correct.
There's a recipe. And that recipe includes everything from forgiveness to long suffering, everything. And we talked about 1 Corinthians 13. When you look at love, it's all those things. That's the recipe. 1 Corinthians 13 is the recipe.
Yeah.
And you look at the recipe, and
that's if there's a piece missing, mm-hmm, if there's any of that ingredient missing, then it's not going to come out the way you want it to be.
No, and I think that, but most of us don't know that. Most of us don't know what it takes. We don't know the ingredients, and I think that's where we want to make sure that, again, in our imperfection, we want to talk to folks about the ingredients. Mm-hmm. And I think all the time, I really believe this: you don't have to be the greatest basketball player to be a great coach. You don't have to be somebody perfect in a marriage to be a great teacher of marriage. I think that you can always find somebody's calling her. Somebody wants to get on the show. I think you can always find ways to improve your marriage. And I think that's where it is. But I think that being people who came out of other marriages that have actually learned what love really is, and we're applying it to our lives now, I think we want to just be a model to encourage people that you can do this. I think there's so many how-tos out there. And I think the one thing that I hope we never do is give you like 6 things that you can do to fix your marriage, or 3 things you can do to
everyone's recipe. I mean, it's the same in regards to the biblical principles, but our ingredients are all different.
Absolutely.
So there is no manual.
No.
I didn't come with a manual.
No, but I think that everybody.
You didn't hear that, honey.
No, I did hear that. I ignored that. But I think everybody does come with. I think there is a manual. The problem is that we've never been introduced to the manual. So we literally are taking what we get. There is a manual. If you believe in God and you believe that his love is the model of love.
There's a manual for love, but not as an individual.
Absolutely.
That's what I meant.
Absolutely.
As a person.
Absolutely. And I think that's where we have to get back to. The manual for love. What does that really involve? And it truly involves every aspect of you denying yourself. I think that's where the sacrifice thing comes in.
Mm.
People believe that, or they know that you do have to die to yourself. You have to give of yourself. You have to allow the other person to be that. But we live in, we've got to get past these social constructs. My favorite verse of scripture, one of my favorite verses of scripture in the Bible, is Mark 7:13. It's the traditions of man make the word of God of none effect.
Mhm.
And I believe it's those evolving mantras, it's those conditional love, it's those transactional love, it's the contract, it's the agreements
Do you remember?
that don't allow us to be that way.
Do you remember as we, and I'm gonna use the words evolve because I think
Mhm.
our relationship evolved,
Mhm.
right, in time. And I remember when we were first starting.
I believe it grew, not evolved.
Okay, it grew. It
Yeah, I
grew.
believe it grew.
Okay, it grew. Okay, I'll use the term.
Mhm.
But I remember being in that space at that time and always saying to you, I don't want to lose myself.
Mhm.
And I was using those words like I was looking at you saying, but I don't want to lose myself because I felt that there were those sacrifices at the time. And I truly believe that it's not a sacrifice anymore. When you're
Right.
when you're connected in such a way with love, there is no sacrifice. You know, when when you're really matched in the sense of growing together, there is none. So I'm not losing myself, I'm actually gaining myself. If
Absolutely.
there's such a big difference in that. So that's the growth that's occurred in my own self. And you're not only am I growing myself, but I'm being lifted,
Mhm.
right, in ways that I've never ever been. I was also challenged, and the challenging allowed me to grow in love so that I can love. So there was all of that. Those were some of the words that I can reflect back on and go, wow, that, because that's where I was in love.
I think part of the challenge, babe, is the fact that people have adopted words in this new language that they have to make definitions fit to, right? As opposed to really getting back to what actually love is. We've used all these words, I've shared this before with you. The words like boundaries and all these words that now have become common to relationships and all those things.
Mhm.
They really have the wrong meaning. They really don't apply to what love is, because when you look at true love, there are no boundaries. If it's unconditional, there really aren't any boundaries. When it comes down to it,
No, that's
boundaries,
right. That's right.
there really
There
aren't any.
isn't anything
There,
because you don't have to have any.
there's no boundaries in transparency.
No.
Right? So true love is about vulnerability and transparency. But we've done these words to protect ourselves. We're protecting ourselves from conditions.
Well, and I think that's why I said when I said earlier that for me, if I was to define it in a way other than how it's been defined,
Right.
is the fact that love is you losing the control because you don't have to have boundaries. There are no sacrifices. There's no expectation. You don't have to change. You are. You just be. And when you just be, you become love. It can really truly be simple once you break it down
Absolutely.
to what love is.
Absolutely. And I think and we want to encourage you guys that I know many of you are listening and saying, well, come on, I've been through this and you know what I've been through. And you're probably right. We might not have been through what you've been through. We've been through some stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. We're not sitting here as if there's no cross that we bear. But what we want to do is we want to encourage people to not make excuses anymore when it comes down to love.
Well, that's just going to hold you.
Right.
It's just going to hold you hostage. Whatever it was doesn't have to be.
Correct.
I mean, that's the part of moving in love.
Mm-hmm.
It's what it wasn't to what it can be.
And if you're living with love, then that's an active thing that you're doing. It's something that you're doing every day. It's something that you have to do for yourself every day. It's something you have to do for others every day. Living with love.
Mm-hmm.
That means, and here's the tough part, ladies and gentlemen, living with love also means forgiving. It also means asking for forgiveness. It also means forgiving yourself. I mean, every aspect of it is a part of living with love. Living with love is not holding any ought against anybody. That's living with love.
Mm-hmm.
Living with love is understanding that people are going to fall short. You're going to fall short. But I got to live with love. And that's just where it is. I think if that was the posture that people took, I'm going to live with love. My friend Kenny Jones says, lead with love and then leave with love.
Lead and then leave.
Lead with love and leave with love.
Mhm.
But I love the fact that we're living with love,
Mhm.
because it should be something that moves you through every single day, right? You can lead and you can leave, and that's the way you're supposed to actually engage. But living is how you're supposed to process this thing regularly.
Oh,
I'm living with love.
and that's growing.
hmm
That's growing.
You have shown me so much when it comes down to living with love. And that's what I said to you
Well,
all
and
the time.
the same for me.
Right. But I've said to you, I'm like, for me, living with love is the confidence and safety and security and peace that I do have that partner that has my back in every aspect. You know what I mean? It's really, I'm telling you guys, it is a peaceful place to be when none of that stuff messes with you. It's an
Well,
unbelievable
that's the
place to be.
freedom.
Absolutely.
That's the freedom of love. That's the freedom of love. Definitely. That's that piece where you can just be who you are and own every ingredient of your being. And when you can do that, the the, the floodgates of love open up. I mean, it's incredible.
And the same storybook that I think emotional love was tied to, this fantasy and romanticizing, I think you really do get to experience that. I think it's been over dramatized in the world, which is why people get hurt, because they get emotionally into it. But
well, it's an expectation of what love should be.
Right. But that same fairy tale, I live it every day. And I live that fairy tale. I live that romanticized life by doing it with truth and transparency and unconditional love. Again, I think that I know those things exist. You can have this blissful coexistence with somebody, and it doesn't have to be from a movie. It doesn't have to be Pretty Woman. You can have that every single day in your own life. That same feeling that you felt. But I think that we've tied some of those examples to the actual tangible that it takes. So I can only do that if I'm rich, and this is the case. But that's not the case. And you've said this before, and I've loved when you shared this. You said, I'm one of the richest women in the world. And I think that there's a place of security and peace that comes with that. I know how I feel, and I know what lacked in my life before. I knew what fulfilled or filled that space for me. You fill every space. And I think that people need to know that that can happen. I think people out there watching now and watching later are still wondering, can somebody do that? Especially if you've been in a relationship that wasn't what you needed to be, or it didn't turn out to be that way, or you were hurt by that relationship. But I'm telling you, it exists.
But you said fill that space. So I want to clarify that. When you come whole, there's really no space to fill.
Right.
So what do you mean by fill the space?
Until you understand that whole even exists, you want to make the most of love as you can have it. So you want to find somebody that can meet, most of the time, meet areas of your weakness. So if that person is in your mind externally what you need to motivate and move you, then you grab it. Because what we believed is that that love is external, happiness is external. So I want to find that external thing that meets that need. When you realize that joy comes from the inside,
correct,
then you don't need somebody to fill that gap. And what she does is he compliments you, and he literally brings you to another level. What people don't realize is that having the right person or having love in its right perspective changes everything in your life. It keeps you healthier. It keeps you more acute when it comes to the way you think. It keeps you.
There is no other distractions.
Absolutely,
there's no distractions.
That's what most things are. They are nothing but distractions.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll take you down another path, because there's the other force that doesn't want you to have love.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Absolutely.
There comes the distractions all the time with it. But when you truly know yourself, you can eliminate those distractions, because there's nothing to look for. There's nothing to compare. You're just peaceful.
And if you look at the book of Proverbs, when they talk about relationships, The Bible refers to him as a woman. So it's showing you that there needs to be a cohesive connection with that. And then it talks about the lady of wisdom and the lady of folly, are the two ladies that are talked about there. And the lady of wisdom, when you get knowledge, it's like having a relationship. Well, when I know how to treat my spouse, I know that because of my relationship with God. I've got amazing wisdom in how I treat her. And that wisdom comes from my relationship with God. When I don't have a relationship with God, I don't get wisdom. Mm. And so now I'm using my own way of defining what love is or how it is, or it's based on my past experience.
Right.
So that's what it becomes. So you can be taken to wisdom where you grow, or folly, which is more transactional, which is more getting through the day. It's taking me away from this bottom line truth of what love really is.
It should be.
Mm-hmm.
It should be.
So for us, as we share with you guys on a constant basis, and we want you all to continue to share with us, we want you to have an amazing, amazing attempt at the next part of your life. If you're starting over, it's not over. And we're living testimonies of it. I mean, literally.
I don't think you ever start over. I think you just, it's a continuation.
But some people think they are. I think that some people, did you think you were starting over? I did.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, starting over.
I was starting over.
Right. And
in every aspect of my life.
And I'm starting over with new rules. And this is what's not going to happen, and this was going to happen. When you start over, it's so hard to start over unconditionally.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you set every condition of what you want now because it is a new beginning.
So we're setting ourselves up not to be in love.
Correct. Correct.
It's the craziest thing.
Well, and I think, that was back to my statement of I don't want to lose myself. I think just giving of yourself so much and not receiving what it is you so forgiving,
which is almost oxymoronic, because to truly love, you have to truly give yourself, right?
Yep.
So the one thing
you have to be ready for it,
right? So the one thing that you're holding back on is the one thing that really gets you to the places you want to go. Whatever you resist persists. So if you resist love, then you're going to continue to get what you don't want. I said this when we met. I said that no matter what I've been through in my life, you shouldn't have to deal with that.
Correct.
So you have
you held true to that.
You have a clean slate until you give me reason not to. And I think what people do is people get into the next relationship and make the person prove what the other person let them down in. And that's not fair. Why should you have to carry the weight of that? You didn't do that. That has nothing to do with you. But I think we subconsciously do that.
And I think that the other piece to our relationship that you did ever so well was knowing my ingredients, go back to that again, and not putting it upon myself to change in any way, but you knew where I was in my love walk, let's call it. And you would always say to me, I just have to figure out how to navigate this differently because I wasn't where you knew I could get. I still had misconceptions of what love was. I still had my own insecurities that I was still building upon. And so the more you lifted me in navigating me through some of it, the less I felt that I had all these insecurities. My lenses changed. I saw things differently where I was looking to see for a reason against the idea of love. As a boundary not to get hurt. People talk about it all the time. They look for the red flags. They're looking for their out. They're looking for their reason instead of just allowing it to become and knowing that it's okay to walk away. It's okay that not everyone is for everyone.
And what's funny is
but you have to really know what you're looking for.
Absolutely. But here's what's funny. They look for red flags. And if you're looking for them, you'll find them.
You'll find them.
Well, watch this.
Oh, yeah.
Why can't you look for love and do the same thing?
Yeah.
It's funny to me how we'll take it one way and utilize it, and we'll utilize it for our own protection.
I don't think they know what to look for.
Right.
I didn't know what to look for because I'd never seen it. So how was I to? I didn't.
And I'm saying you don't know what to look for either. That's why the red flags show up. I didn't know what to look for, right? So here it was. When you don't know what to look for, then you end up with what you don't want.
or you end up with what you always had,
Correct.
because
So
that's what you know.
right. So I think the biggest thing.
So don't look.
No, let
Just
it find you.
wait.
Exactly. And
Just
that's what
wait.
happens.
That is huge.
Or
If you
go on Bumble.
no, and have your mother
But
look
no,
at someone.
but no, you're right. It is the wait, and I think that's what people need to do. And spending time on yourself is in the
Absolutely.
space of waiting. And once you wait, and you find that that person will show up,
It's patience.
it is.
And even when that person does show up, you start to learn even more about yourself, right? Because now you're in a relationship, so now you learn more about yourself outside of yourself.
And we've always said this too, and Adrian and I on the podcast we talked about this. People say they're always working on themselves. Well, how are you going to know if what you're working on is working unless you get into another relationship or you begin to meet someone?
Right.
You can't sit around and work on it your whole life. And I think that, again, these are conceptual ideas that people take in, and it turns them into the wrong place they're supposed to be. Because we strayed so far away from the original plan. We've been strayed so far away from unconditional love that you didn't even hear that concept. You still don't even hear it today.
I had no idea that there was a difference.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was a clean slate. I mean, I was like ready to receive, not knowing what to receive. And then I just walked through it. First, just clearing up my own and accepting my own.
Right. Well, but you know it's the real principle, because how did you love your kids in the beginning? No matter what they screw up in the house, no matter how many times they poop down their legs, they could do no wrong.
What?
Well, I'm in that mode right now. But you know what I'm saying? It was just unconditional. It didn't matter what they did.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if they were born with a birth defect. It didn't matter if they were nothing. None of that mattered, right? And I think all that stuff changes, and it shouldn't. It's that type of love. It's that type of commitment to, I just love you. And I believe that's, it can seem like it's unfair if you're doing it, it's not being reciprocated. It can seem like you're being used. It can seem like that, because of what God asks of us when it comes to forgiving 7 times 70. When it talks about love keeping no record of wrongdoing, it really, when you talk about it rationally to people, they feel like you're an idiot for loving the way that you love, but you're not.
Because it will come back around.
Absolutely.
Because it's through your modeling, it's through your example that they're watching.
Yep.
They see, and eventually they will either decide to receive it in the new form or continue in their own path.
Right.
I mean, that's our choice. That's why love is that choice, right?
Yep. And living with love, as you just said, babe, it is a choice. And we choose to live with love, and we want to share with you guys that we just believe it's a better way. It is a better way to do it. Now, philosophically, people will come up with their own anecdotal ways of telling you what you should do and how you should do it. What I want to make sure that we do, because I know your heart, we want to model it for you guys. We want to show you what that's really like. Not that it's a perfect example. We want to encourage couples.
Well, and I think too that if we're really to be true through this, is to really share, even when we get to working with others, is the trials. Because
yeah, but here's the deal though. If they're, and again, I think it's the framing of what you do, because if you're both working for the same thing, it's not a trial. You both see it as part of the process. When you aren't on one accord, it becomes a trial, because now you're doubting whether or not they're on your side, whether or not they're going to continue with you, whether or not they're going to be there. When you know someone has got your back, even the losses don't hurt as much.
Yeah, but we didn't get there right away.
No,
it's what I'm saying.
You're still getting there.
I don't run as fast anymore. Kind of slowed down my pace a little bit.
but we haven't. I think that's the mindset, is the fact that we know we're not there.
Yeah.
But everything we're doing, we have a different level of gratitude now.
Correct.
We have a different level of belief. We have a different level of faith because so many
We have a
things
different level of presence.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like we're present. We're grateful for right now this presence.
And I don't want any of these words to throw you off, thinking it's real deep and ethereal. It's not. What we're saying is that we've learned to appreciate where we are, love where we're going, endure the process that it takes, but celebrating the whole time. Just not at the end. We're celebrating the whole entire time. I mean, every day when I come back in here, there's something new that she's done. There's something new that she's tweaked, something new that she's moved, something that she's changed. So I come in this house that's already beautiful, and she has a desire to make it more beautiful. Or she's written something else down for a curriculum. Or she's working on something that she believes I should be doing and giving me a reason to do it or a nudge to doing it. It's so important. And I think some people really take that stuff for granted when it happens. But I'm telling you, if you shift that to just pure how God loves you, I mean, you think about it. God loved me enough to bring me an amazing partner. That's what I look at every single day. No matter what I've gone through in life, no matter what I faced in life, he loved me enough to do that. And he loves each and every one of you out there.
And I'm sure that you didn't think it was going to be me.
Absolutely not.
And I didn't think it was going to be you.
I didn't know who it was going to be.
That was,
but no one can say this though.
That was the most amazing part. I'm like, wow.
But I've known it from the beginning. I told you that, and you couldn't understand that.
No, not at all.
And I told you that, and I didn't know why. I've been comfortable with her from the day we met, and one day maybe we'll tell all those stories. But we've been comfortable with each other, and I'm not using comfort as the drug that it is for not growing.
I think it's transparent.
Yeah, it's always been that way. And I think that's been the foundation for the love that we have. It's never been anything but.
And I think we came from similar, that we had a level of understanding. I think that's an important piece to the ingredient as well. And I also would say that we also didn't have any judgment included. Again, Sadiki. We also didn't have any judgment towards one another in anything that we shared.
No.
And we knew that this was a different start because whatever we had in the past was with someone else. So not to bring that forward.
Right. And again, that doesn't knock any of that. Doesn't knock any of that. Our focus is where we are now. And
I think that if I was to share where to go from here in regards to our talks, I think a big piece to it is the distraction not to love. I think that's a lot of people get stuck. You know, they hold hostage to that, and there's that distraction piece. So maybe we can lead in that direction next, because that's part of living with love, is to be able to remove those pieces.
Get rid of distractions and focus on where you are. So know your ingredients. Appreciate someone else's ingredients. Don't just focus on the picture. Focus on what it takes to make an amazing cake. Love is a choice. It's a conscious choice. It's not an emotion. And I think once you move beyond those things, everything you want in life, in relationship with another person or yourself, seems to be easier to get to. It seems to be more lasting. It seems to be more fulfilling. So we just want to encourage you all to find your energy, your NRG, find your energy, because it attracts. And when you focus on your energy, you'll attract everything in life that you want. And we're not talking about the law of attraction, even though we know that's a real law. We're talking about the love. God's love is attracting. She just was coming home. I gotta tell the story.
Right.
She was flying. You were flying home the other day and going to the airport, headed back here.
Oh.
And the Holy Spirit just told her to turn around. And she turns around and she sees an elderly woman of color. And she looked lost. So she walks over to her, Evie does, and she says, "What's going on?" And she kind of overheard the conversation. Well, the lady was trying to get to a Carnival cruise. She's an elderly lady, probably had to be, looking at the picture, in her early 80s or mid 80s. And she shared with Evie that she was a stage 4 cancer. And this was kind of one of her last trips she was going to be going on. But she had to get to Cape Canaveral. And
she first had to find her baggage.
Right. So she had to get the baggage thing. So this is what living with love is. She knows her own heart, and her heart is so much for people. that she just said, you know what, I'll make sure you get there. And her whole essence of was knowing who she is. She spent time with this lady. She even talked to the lady's grandson on the phone to find out who was supposed to be picking her up. And the live with love is what you do on a daily basis.
I think when you have peace
Mm-hmm.
and fulfillment, you're no longer in a race.
Absolutely.
And there's nowhere else to go but right there at that moment. And I think it's slowed myself down to be able to be present and to be present for others, because I'm present for myself all the time. And that to me is a huge way to live with love.
Slow yourself down for every relationship, whether it's your significant other, it's your workplace, it's your kids, it's your family. Slow yourself down and live with unconditional love as the foundational premise. Don't negotiate that. Make sure that stays true covenant. And I guarantee you, you will live with love in a way you never have. I'm the real GM, Grace in Marshall, Virginia, and this beautiful woman, the love of my life.
Evie the extra. I finally got the extra right, because
You did.
earlier in my life the extra wasn't right.
No, but
it's right now. Okay, good. So I'm Evie the extra.
So we'll be back next Monday night. If you have an idea of something, give her a call. To all the ladies in the Fly Girl Endeavors, you see it at the bottom of the screen. Follow her at Fly Girl Endeavors. It's her own small private group that's growing like crazy. Follow me every morning 7:15 on GM Talking BS on Facebook, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. So all you ladies out there that are doing this, we're about to do something big. I'm getting Joe's thinking about it. We thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the love. And work on your energy, because it attracts. Well, how are we doing?
And do like this.
What? How are we doing?
Make a heart.
Do it. Okay, there we go.
Oh, he just needs one finger.
There we go. All right. Love you guys.
Love you.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.